Welcome back, fellow nerds, to the MCU review, and today we're doing Iron Man 2. We're ready to jump into the synopsis and actually have some fun. Iron Man 2 on rewatch is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But our review and our synopsis is no substitute for watching the actual movie. So make sure you go do that, then check this out, see where your rankings align with ours, and leave it in the comment section below because we'd love to talk about it. You may see it differently than us, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
So, diving into this movie, it starts off with Iron Man flying like a rocket ship in the sky.
Look, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
Nope.
It's a
John Cena!
Well, that's not what's going on initially, it's just the ending of the last movie, but we've already seen that. So he's flying through the sky like a skyrocket in flight afternoon delight. He lands at the Stark Expo and he goes, "The Stark Expo is now open," or some crap, I don't know. He says words.
Yeah.
Very Tony-esque, it's very good.
Yeah.
So, then we're diving through and we're going into seeing what Tony's been up to. Well, he's dying. We find that out.
Yeah.
In the relatively early parts of this movie. We also
Very
get
early.
introduced to, what's his name?
Happy?
Whiplash.
Oh. Yeah.
Whiplash is creating a arc reactor himself.
Yeah.
And he's getting like turbo whippy thingies.
He's becoming Whiplash.
So, Tony owns a race car team and he's changing out cores for his arc reactor.
He has to keep taking his blood to see how much, like, I think it's titanium or something like that.
There's toxin in his blood.
His blood is very toxic, and he has to keep drinking some green juice to make it not toxic.
To help alleviate the toxins,
and so
he's going to change out the core of his thing.
Yeah, he pulls out a little microchip that's completely destroyed and puts in a new one that gets destroyed within a day.
Yeah, so it's really bad. The more he uses his suit, the more he lives. The more he exists, the more deadly
the
his
more he
mind is.
dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he goes to, I think it's France. It might be Prague. I don't know.
Something like that.
Well, no, he goes to the Senate. He's on trial for the Iron Man suit. And he's like, it's a prosthetic, and that is actually like the most apt. It's actually like I looked up what the definition of prosthetic is because I wanted to make sure for this.
Yeah,
it actually is a very apt description.
We get to meet Hammer.
We do get to meet Mr. Hammer. What a piece of crap.
We also get to meet the new War Machine.
We do get to meet Mr. Don Cheadle playing
Rhodey.
Oh God, I love Don Cheadle.
Yes, this is Tony Stank.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah, he is so good. His introduction was so cool because we don't know who it. We just see like him walking in, and we originally you assume it's the same person.
Yeah.
And then it shows that it's not. But then Tony just acknowledges him immediately as Rhodey. I didn't know that they were bringing you in, so. And it feels completely natural.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like a different character.
So they don't like go above and beyond. It's just like a simple like friendly interaction between Tony and Rhodey, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is Rhodey now.
Yeah, it's not like they go around him a bunch of times to show off that it's a new version of Rhodey.
You want to know what's funny?
Huh.
This is really messed up. I've watched the original Iron Man more times than I've watched Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And I always forget that Don Cheadle did not play Rhodey in the first one. I always forget because he does such a good job
He
with
is
the
so
character.
good as Rhodey in War Machine.
And that is not a knock on the actor that played him in the first one. It's
No,
just
he was very good.
Don Cheadle is the right actor for the role.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. So we move on. So they try to take the Iron Man suit from him.
He proves that no one else can be making an Iron Man suit. No one else is even close. Not even Hammer, who accidentally murders a guy, but then says he doesn't murder him.
Well, he did murder him. He said that pilot survived, just for the record.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that he survived with a good body. He literally turned his entire body around.
Yeah,
without his legs moving.
Right. It was bad.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. Basically, it showed him sitting like this, and then his upper body's the other way, but his lower body's still regular.
That's brutal.
But he's not dead.
That pilot survived.
But that doesn't mean he's living a good life anymore.
He took away his entire lower half. So then they go to Prague or France or somewhere. They get introduced. We get introduced to Natasha Romanoff.
Yeah.
And you
he gives control of Stark Enterprises to Pepper.
Yep. Then they go to.
Then they hire
France.
her.
Yep. They go to France. They do all the other stuff, and then Tony decides I'm going to race cars. So he kicks his driver out and he races cars.
What's the point in owning a race car if you can't drive it?
So he goes and drives it because he's dying and he doesn't want to
He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he's just ready to die. And then Whiplash comes out and starts murdering people. Woohoo! Why did he choose whips? Is he like into some weird BDSM stuff?
I think maybe, probably, but I think it's more he wanted to be able to reach things without other people reaching him.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So then we move on after Whiplash is defeated because he literally gets smashed into the wall by a car.
And then continues whipping that car, but then keeps getting smashed. And then Tony brings out a suitcase. This is the first time we've seen an Iron Man suit that wasn't always an Iron Man suit.
Yeah, it was a briefcase and it was
and then he has an Iron Man suit on. So that was interesting. That shows that he's developed a good amount more Iron Man suits. That was a good showing.
Yeah, that was a great show, no tell. Not a show and tell. And then they arrest Whiplash. Whiplash gets bailed out of... gets ejected from prison by killing and blowing up his new cellmate replacement.
Yeah. And then Hammer gets him out of jail.
Gets him a bird.
He brings him in, then says he's going to get him a bird.
I want my...
Yep. He starts working on creating drones, not suits, because...
he told Hammer he was building Iron Man suits, then he's building drone suits.
Whichever. And then...
Tony throws a party for his birthday.
Yep. Rhodey comes in and steals a War Machine suit.
Well, yeah, he steals just a chrome suit that Tony was making.
Yeah.
And then beats Tony, because Tony's been drunk and fighting.
Yep.
And flies away with it. Turns it into the War Machine.
Kind of. And then...
using Hammer technology.
Yeah. And then Tony's hiding in a donut.
Yep. And then he meets another character that we've only seen very, very little of.
Yep.
Nicholas J. Fury. Who introduces Natasha Romanoff as Black Widow.
So then Coulson shows up and it's like, I'm not here for that. I'm here to force you to get to work. Tony starts looking through a bunch of old files of his dad's, finds a brand new element using the Stark Expo layout as the way to find this new element, but he didn't have the technology in order to actually make the new element.
Yeah.
So Tony's like, I got you. So it's like, even from beyond the grave, you're still taking me to school, which is a great line.
Like, Howard, it actively shows that Howard is just as, if not smarter than Tony.
He may not be as tech smart, but he's a brilliant mind.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see that later on in a movie that comes later that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
That he's well ahead of his time. He just is limited by the technology of his time.
Yeah.
Which is by his own admission. So Tony develops and synthesizes a new element, and we actually get a teaser to that future movie. Yep, we see a prototype, like, aluminum style of Captain America shield, and Coulson loses his mind.
From seeing that, yeah, absolutely.
Which is actually really great foreshadowing, something I completely missed.
Same. But no, like, this movie does set up a lot, I will say.
It really does. It's such a good movie. So he synthesizes this new element, creates a brand new arc reactor with said new element.
And it makes his toxicity immediately disappear somehow.
The magic of science!
His blood that was very toxic, all of a sudden all that toxicity is just gone as soon as he puts on
It's like this new element like eats toxins, which is actually pretty cool.
Well, it eats specifically like titanium toxin.
Yeah. So, or plutonium toxin.
Whatever the thing was.
So then...
let us know in the comments.
Yeah, if you remember what it is, I'm not watching the movie again because we've got more to do.
Yeah.
But, leave it below like Lucas said. So then we get to the big fight scene at the end where there's a bunch of cars blowing up. Well, Rhodey shows up as a war machine, and then
one of the funniest scenes.
I'm gonna bust his bunker with the ex-wife. With the what? Hammer tech? Yeah.
Alright, and then they keep fighting.
And like that just shows the difference between Tony, who sells something that works, and Hammer, that sells something that sounds good.
Yeah.
So the drones are taken over by... what's his name? The bird?
For a minute, before that happened, War Machine is taken over by Whiplash.
And Tony, to protect his friend, just hijacks it
Hacks into the suit
while fighting him and an army of drones.
While also, we did miss this, Happy, who was introduced in this movie, goes with Natasha to Whiplash, to Hammer's house to get Whiplash.
Hammer Industries to get him out, yeah.
And we get a funny scene with Happy trying to watch Natasha undress.
Yeah. And then we also get to see Natasha,
the first
Happy beats up one security guard, he's like, I got him.
And the time that Natasha's beaten up literally every other security guard in the building.
And it's just around the corner, and he's just like,
And this is the first time we get to see her in her Black Widow getup.
Which, very nice.
Yeah.
Anyway. It is.
Whiplash does escape.
Whiplash escapes in an Iron Man suit-ish kind of thing.
His version of Iron Man suit.
Shows up with this big hunk of steel trap. Rhodey and
Tony have to beat him together.
And they do.
Yeah.
And he credits Tony with giving him the idea for like the double speed or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
Doubling the power of the electricity.
Yeah. They beat him, and they all live happily ever after the end.
After credits scene, we see Coulson go to Nevada with the random hammer in the ground.
Oh yeah, the satellite. So yeah, we're gonna delve into the breakdown, starting with the story, of course.
All right, story time. This makes me so much more happier. Now, as an individual story, do I think it's great? No. But is it better than the last one? Absolutely.
This movie sets up everything.
It does, but as an individual movie, I only give it a 5 out of 10. And almost exclusively because of the villains.
Yeah, the villains actually kind of...
Like, this is almost exclusively because of the villains, this movie just goes down a lot.
As an individual story.
Yeah.
I actually kind of agree with that. I went with a 6 out of 10. I thought it was okay. It wasn't the greatest movie. It wasn't terrible. It was just kind of okay in terms of its own individual premise.
Yeah.
But where this movie really shines
is how it affects the MCU.
It affects the MCU a lot.
I gave it a 9 out of 10. Like, I thought almost everything about this movie set up other things. So, like, it showed that Tony is reckless, but he's not so reckless once he understands how to make himself live. Mm-hmm. Or when he thinks he's going to die, he's reckless.
Yeah.
When Rhodey being War Machine now, that was in this movie was the first time that was shown. Mm-hmm. Him not dying from his arc reactor,
and showing like
Fury, Black Widow, Shield at the end of the movie, Thor at the end of the movie,
Coulson during it,
Happy's in this movie,
Captain America Shield, the introduction of Peter Parker, who ends up being a huge deal.
Yeah, the kid in the Iron Man mask at the expo, that's Peter Parker. In case you guys don't know that. It sets up so much, I have to give it a 9 out of 10.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. How it affects the MCU is massive. It also shows Tony trying to create clean energy. It's the official get-together of Pepper and Tony.
Yeah.
Like, they're officially together, kind of. They're officially in a sense that, like, they're making out.
They're starting to live. They also started living together, like fully living together.
Yeah. At the end of this, because it's something that's a talking point. Iron Man 3.
A great moment for this in comparison to Avengers. In this one, he doesn't call Pepper when he thinks he's dying. In Avengers and in Infinity War or Endgame, when the last thing Tony does before he thinks he's about to die is try to call Pepper or leave a message for Pepper. Mm-hmm. Like, that shows how Tony's growing because he loves Pepper.
He's growing leaps and bounds, but we actually see the most growth from Tony post-Avengers, but like this is where we start to see, we are shown that Tony is absolutely brilliant. We are shown that he's incredibly inventive and creative.
And that even though he's overconfident, he doesn't think he knows everything. He does look to other people for information.
He's inquisitive and he's an intelligent man.
Yeah.
But his greatest strength is also his greatest weakness, and that's himself.
Yeah.
He's an egotistical pain in the neck.
He's an egotistical and asshole. Like,
yeah, he's just an a-hole.
He is an asshole. Like, actively, who sits in a suit in a donut just because he's like, well, no one's going to tell me I can't.
Yeah. It's my prosthetic.
Or who goes into a courtroom meeting, hacks the TVs to show off that people were wrong.
Yeah, it's wild to think about, and overall, though, it does give us some really good introductions, a lot of really good characters, and a lot of really good stuff.
It's so
it also brings up the consulting thing, Tony being a consultant for S.H.I.E.L.D., which was really funny. You can't afford me.
No. They really can't.
So I think we're going to dive into characters now.
Yep. Main character
we're having
time.
a lot of fun.
Main character time. Alright, we're on.
Main character.
Alright, time to main character.
Okay, so we're starting with Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I originally had this as an 8 out of 10, but when we were talking about the synopsis, I was like, oh yeah, Tony was dying this whole time.
No, throughout most of the movie.
And I didn't take that into consideration because he didn't feel like Iron Man from the first one, but that's because he's not, because he's dying.
He realizes he's dying consistently.
He's 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
He is a stellar character in this movie. He's very consistent. RDJ is Tony Stark. There's no one else that can play that role, no one else to fill that shoes. It's 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Just out of the park.
I have to agree, 10 out of 10. Like, if someone else attempted it, I would give them the benefit of the doubt, but the problem is they could not bring the same energy and the same
charisma.
I was about to say assholiness that Tony needs to have.
That brutish confidence, that charisma that he exudes.
Yeah.
RDJ does it perfectly.
He does.
Okay, so actually I'm increasing almost everybody on this list.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go to Pepper. Pepper is a 9 out of 10 for me in this.
That's
one.
fair. That's very fair.
She is what I felt like in this movie initially on watching was she didn't feel like Pepper from the first one. Again, she's not.
Yeah.
I'm not taking character growth into it. I'm being like when I'm doing these initially, and it's I think because we were rushing through them to try and get these things started.
We were.
So I think she's a 9 out of 10.
So
I think she continually gets better. And in this movie, she is a stellar character. She's taking over a job that is very, very stressful, whilst also still babysitting Tony.
Yeah.
Who needs a babysitter still. And on top of all that, things aren't going great because Tony's kind of a reckless idiot.
Yeah. And he doesn't, and he refuses to tell her why.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
So she's taking over a job, she's stressed out of her mind, and she handles it admirably and deals with a terrible crisis in her first week on the job.
Yeah. I'm gonna give her an 8 out of 10. Like, it's slightly higher than what I originally had, but I like all of that, but I know that she does get a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, it's a significant amount better. Along with, in this movie, it's still one of those times where it feels like, not damsel in distress, I wouldn't say that, but more of every other character, even other humans that don't have any special abilities, like Black Widow or Happy even, at least do something to actively help Pepper the most she can do, and it's not her fault, but it's the most she is physically capable of doing, is running his company, which is exceedingly hard. I'm not saying that's easy. That's why she still has an 8 out of 10.
She also deals with Hammer's situation without being violent herself.
That is
because she knows what she is capable of, and instead of trying to work outside of the parameters of what she is actually capable of doing, she works within those parameters and trusts the people around her to work within theirs to solve the problem, and she does.
That is true.
She solves the problem with
Hammer by getting him arrested.
minimal ability of actually doing any physical damage herself.
Literally all she did was call the cops and kick him in the butt.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's exactly what she would do.
That's all she could do.
Yeah.
And she knows that, and Pepper is, of all the characters in this movie, is easily the wisest character in this movie because she understands her own limitations. Next up is
Rhodey.
Rhodey's an 8 out of 10. God, I love Don Cheadle.
He is so good.
And he gets so much better.
He does!
And in this movie, we get one-liners out of him. It feels friendly with Tony. It feels like playful banter between two really good friends.
I think that was the biggest thing that was missing in Iron Man 1 was they had playful banter, but it didn't feel like playful banter from friends. It felt playful banter from a business perspective.
Like colleagues.
Yeah.
And this, it feels like...
They've been best friends for years, which they have.
So it felt authentic, and Don Cheadle as Rhodey is incredible.
Yeah, I also give him an 8 out of 10. The only problem I had with him was he had the best introduction, but it was him in the War Machine suit. It felt he wasn't fully ready to be in it.
Yeah.
Like, if he was in Iron Man 1, I think this would have felt more given, I guess, is the best way to put it. Like, accepting him from the other actor from Iron Man 1 into Don Cheadle's already was very easy, but Don Cheadle didn't feel ready to just do face acting.
Yeah, and this movie is his weakest showing of that, because moving forward,
he is excellent.
He's nearly flawless.
Yeah.
So next, and this is the final main character because she is in over 50% of the movie, that would be Black Widow, and I'm giving her an 8 out of 10 for that ass.
Look, I wouldn't doubt that you would do that.
No, but it would be much higher. No, her
11 out of 10.
15 out of 10. 37 out of 5.
What up? I'm Jared, I'm 19, and I never fucking learned how to read.
2,000 out of 10.
Anyway, look, Scarlett Johansson's a beautiful woman, and there's no argument. No one's ever gonna. I don't think any sane person is gonna try to rationalize or debate that. Her acting ability in this movie and the character she plays, she is an actress playing a character that is playing a role.
Yeah. That's very different.
That's new levels of meta.
Yeah, and she does it excellently.
She does it nearly flawlessly, but you get the flashes of this is not she's not who she said she is.
Yeah,
because she flips Happy on his tail immediately.
Yeah,
with gusto and
with ease.
And you're like, wait a minute, there's no way she's a lawyer because Happy's not a smaller
or
weak dude. Yeah, who is she really? Supermodel I could believe. But being a lawyer and a supermodel and also able to defend herself and to that capacity, because that's not a beginner move, that's a big old...
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
But it's good foreshadowing, and if you're not paying attention, you'll almost miss it.
Yeah. I gave her a 7 out of 10 for a very, very simple reason of...
Dead ass.
I wish she was Black Widow a little bit more than Natalie. It was forced.
Yeah.
It's a thing that has to happen, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I wish she could have been more badass more often because I know how badass she can be.
I like that she wasn't as badass, and my reasoning for that is it leaves room to show more of her in a movie where that kind of ability is going to be more necessary, whereas in this, it's a look at my chest laser, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you say my collection's complete? Versus, the next movie is a literal war zone and her expertise in combat is going to be more necessary.
Yeah.
And so this is, we get to meet and understand and know who Natasha Romanoff is.
Next one you get to see Black Widow.
Right, which is...
And that's fair.
The combat ability, but we need the character build. So we got the character build and now we don't have to establish that character in Avengers. Mm-hmm. And we allow Natasha Romanoff to show off all of her assets with her modeling career and how she fights. No, that's the character. It shows off all that stuff. She is a pretty face, but she's not just a pretty face.
Yeah.
And we get that on her introduction into the movie, and we get that throughout as we get to learn about who she is, and then we get her combat ability kind of in flashes.
Yeah.
And that's what we needed because with the next movie that she's in, hot mamma jamma, is she a badass?
Yeah.
That's not even me as a come on, that's she's a badass.
Alright, we're gonna move on to villains.
Ugh.
Alright. Worst part of this movie.
Yeah, really it is.
Yeah. Let's start with Hammer. 5 out of 10 for me.
4 out of 10. What a piece of shit.
Yeah. He wasn't very interesting.
And he was a piece of shit.
Yeah. He's basically, if Tony was just a piece of shit instead of an asshole.
Yeah.
Tony's an ass. Don't get me wrong. Tony's a dick.
But he's still part of a person.
But he'll at least help someone, and if he's trying to reach something, he'll at least make sure that they understand he appreciates it. Hammer's just a dick and a piece of shit about it.
He's just a piece of shit because he's not part of a human. He's just the excrement of a human.
No.
Probably, maybe a bull. Don't know.
He's a dick. Dick. That is also a piece of shit.
He's a dick shit.
Yeah, because somehow, even though a person that is actively smarter than him is helping him, he's just yeah, fuck you. I understand that I lose everything I've worked for if you don't help me, but fuck you still. And then Whiplash, also 5 out of 10.
Yeah, same.
I just wish he was more interesting, or I wish I think that one thing that could have made him significantly better, his father being introduced in Iron Man 1.
That could have
Or
helped
being
if they had
talked
that
about.
plan, but they didn't have that plan.
Yeah, just being talked about in Iron Man 1, because his entire thing is, you fucked over my father. But we don't know who his dad was throughout that entire, or your dad fucked over my father.
Yeah, like...
But we don't know anything about Howard really at this point, because Captain America hadn't been made yet, and we don't know anything about his dad because it was just never talked about. So if we don't know anything about Howard, we don't know anything about him. Why do we care?
Yeah, it really is
Like
just bad.
Whiplash is a very popular villain in the comics. He doesn't have any real motivation for the movies.
And they got such a good actor. Mickey
Yeah.
Rourke is so good.
No, and
he
and
plays
that
this
alone
like...
keeps him at 5. Like,
Yeah, like-
he's an average villain. Like he isn't a horrible villain, but he's just not good because there's
He's
no
poorly
reason.
written. This movie for this character is the worst written character. Hammer, I think, was supposed to be disliked.
Yeah.
The problem is that the actor that played him did such a good job of portraying such a piece of crap that we actually
Didn't
negatively impact the character. Like, we don't... I appreciate the hard work he probably put into playing such a piece of shit, but he was such a piece of shit, I was like, I don't like this character.
For me, he was an average villain in that I don't like him, but I don't have any reason to hate him. Like,
He's just a person I'd never talk to.
a great example, and this is for future. I hate Thanos because he is such a good villain.
Yeah.
Like, I hate him because I'm supposed to hate him. And I feel that.
I don't hate Hammer, I just am indifferent towards
Yeah.
him because he's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, he is a
whereas-
bad person for no reason besides he wants money.
But Whiplash, this character, I give all the credit to Mickey Rourke because
Yeah.
Whiplash's lines and everything in the hands of literally any actor that is not on Mickey Rourke's level falls completely flat. This
It would
movie
have
is not
fallen
good.
well below Hammer. And
Mickey Rourke took a -1 out of 10 writing ability for Whiplash because the writing for Whiplash is
it was
god-awful.
very bad.
And he made it a 5 out of 10 character still. He still made it an average villain. That's incredible work. Mickey Rourke did an amazing job. His facial expressions were perfect, even in the suit, which is something he probably wasn't ready for, but he's so talented. Every time he was in scene, there was this like sense of like danger to him.
Yeah.
Like, he was seriously a dangerous dude to be in the same room with.
He also felt
He
like...
killed 2 people just like almost nonchalantly.
Yeah. He also is one of the only people that we see throughout most of the MCU, in all honesty, that is about as intelligent as Tony.
Yeah, there's only a handful of characters that are as smart as Tony.
And he is
One of them
one...
was a teenager, but...
Yeah, and he is one of them that actively, like, he made these drones out of technology that wasn't Tony's.
That wasn't even on the same standard.
Yeah, and made them able to where he had, like, Tony had to go all out and still almost die.
Yeah.
Like, and he had to have a friend to help him with that.
Yeah.
Like, actively, and he hacked into an Iron Man suit. Let's not forget that. He hacked into the War Machine.
Yep. It was a lot.
It's crazy. But
Yeah,
we're going to move
Mickey-
on to side characters now.
Yeah, now that we're done praising Mickey Rourke. Side characters.
Yeah.
Coulson.
7. 7 out of 10?
I'm gonna give him an 8 out of 10 just
That's
because
fair.
he stood up to Tony.
No, that's fair.
One scene and that one, and the shield. We got to see him fangirl and
And him, like, acknowledging Thor's hammer. Like,
Yeah.
he's the one that was shown to go to Thor's hammer.
to New Mexico.
Like, Coulson does a lot of really cool things, and
He's such a small part, but that small part is always so good. And his interactions with Tony are brilliant.
I forgot how many of these Phase 1 movies Coulson was in.
He's in like almost all of them.
He is. No, he is in every single one except for Hulk. Yeah, he's in every
No,
single
he's not in Captain America either.
He's
He's stated to be present, but he's never shown there.
okay. I couldn't remember if he went out with Fury.
No, I think Cap was found at the same time as the New Mexico incident.
I
think. I don't know how the timeline like adds up. But
yeah, the timeline's weird. I don't think so. I think it's a little bit.
he was
after
present for
the
the defrosting. We know
Yeah.
that. That is factually true.
Yes, he watched him while he was asleep. He states that himself.
But, which is hilarious.
But no, Coulson. I forgot how many he was in Phase 1, and it makes me care more about him when Avengers happens.
Yep. Fury.
8 out of 10 for me.
You know what? I agree with that in hindsight because we do get a reference from him that Howard Stark was a founding member of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And Tony's just like, wait, what?
Along with, it shows that like Fury doesn't think about only exactly what he has at the moment, but people he can make his friends, quote unquote friends, by actively showing that, look, I know that you're smart, Tony. This helps you, and I know it does. Without having to say anything, he just proves to him, I know more about your sickness than you do. Figure it out. You're smarter than me, figure it out, but I know more about it than you do right now. And I think that's an excellent scene for Fury.
Yeah, Fury is a very good character. He compartmentalizes a lot, which is shown as one of his biggest weaknesses is that he doesn't trust people very much.
Yeah.
And he compartmentalizes a lot of information. It's shown immediately.
He keeps everyone at an arm's length throughout the entire movie.
In every movie, and it actually ends up becoming a catalyst for a big scene later.
Yeah.
A big part of the movie, a big part of the franchise later. Fury is just a great character.
Yeah,
Samuel L. Jackson is an amazing actor.
Samuel L. Jackson is one of the best actors I can think of.
In the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
In
one of the
any
best.
movie overall.
But in the context of just this franchise, he is so consistent.
Yeah.
And then last is Happy. I love Happy.
Happy is so good.
8
I
out
gave
of
him
10.
an 8 out of 10 also. I forgot that Happy was in Iron Man until rewatching this, like which Iron Man he was in until this, because I remembered him only from Spider-Man movies.
He's in all three.
He's a main character in the Spider-Man movies. Like I can't argue that he is a main character for that as much as Aunt May is, if not more.
Yeah.
And I forgot that how much he was in this and how good of a character he is in this. Like Happy is very funny to be around, but then also he proves that he's not afraid to do what he thinks is the right thing to do.
He throws down. He doesn't have armor. He doesn't have powers. He's a regular dude ready to throw down with a superhuman.
He's a hired bodyguard. That's it.
And he's one of Tony's best friends.
Yeah, he's a hired bodyguard who's good friends with Tony, and he's just, Tony needs my help. I'm going to help him.
Yep. And he ends up being like Pepper's right-hand person, their head of security. Like he proves himself time and time again.
Yeah.
And he takes up the Peter Parker project, partially for Aunt May, but he also takes it because
He takes it up before he even realized who Aunt May is.
Yeah.
Like, he takes it up entirely because he went, Tony believes in this kid, I'm going to believe in this kid.
Yep.
And that's his only reasoning.
That's all he needs. And yeah, so the side characters in this movie are incredible.
They are very, very good. Like we said, the only thing holding this movie down is entirely the villains.
The writing for the villains.
Yeah, the writing, well, one of the villains just because it's... The Hammer is just not...
He's the kind of person that you just never talk to.
Yeah, you're never going to like as a villain. Whiplash, if he was just better, I think the individual
I think there's
story
better
would-
writing around him.
Yeah, I think the individual story would have gone up a decent amount, but because of villains, it's down. But the side characters and main characters,
stellar, as always.
they are so good.
So we're going to jump into the cinematography and choreography here. Let's go ahead and
Do that.
let's go talk to us.
Cinematography. So, the camera work, I gave it a 6 out of 10, mainly because the final fight is a lot at night. It's very dark. A lot of the camera work is excellent. I can argue for a 7 out of 10 on this, and if you said it was a 7 out of 10, I would not say you're wrong at all. It's just the few scenes where like he's actually fighting, him against War Machine and him against all the bots and War Machine, all of it's at night, in which even though Iron Man lights up, seeing those different things in the light would have been nicer.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the tropes that Marvel fell into in the first half, in the first phase.
In the beginning of the second phase.
In certain scenes, yeah. There's a lot of night fighting, but like as it develops, and even like during Avengers, there's a lot more daytime fighting. So I put it as a 7 out of 10 for the camera work, but I mean it could be a sale either way. It's perfectly
A 6 to
fine.
7 I think is the right answer for that one. Choreography, I gave it a 7 out of 10. It has a lot of very, very good choreography, especially when War Machine and Iron Man are teaming up.
And Whiplash's scenes on
Yeah.
the racetrack.
The only problem I have with Iron Man movies overall for their choreography is a lot of it is, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to blast you from a distance. And while that can be very interesting, like this movie is very interesting with it, there are certain scenes where it's literally just Tony's just standing there, blasting, and that's all we see for a minute.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem.
That can get old really fast.
Yeah.
I agreed with choreography. It's a 7 out of 10. They did a really good job with certain scenes, and there's a lot of really interesting choreography in terms of like not just in fights, but also in like how people are moving, walking, talking. The body language of Coulson when he said, "That's not what I'm here for." Like, he's so calm. Yeah. And instead of him being like super flinchy, like going for his gun, he's just, "It's not what I'm here for. I'm authorized to use force if necessary." And Tony's like, "Well, okay." Like, he's not even like hesitating to say so. And this is just Coulson. Like, maybe I shouldn't mess with this guy.
Also, Tony saying his name is Agent. His first name is Agent.
That was in Avengers.
Is it?
Yeah. That's the Pepper in Avengers. But it's really good. Overall, let's just talk about our overall enjoyment of this movie. Overall enjoyment, I ranked it as a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Hammer really hurt this movie, and that's not the actor's fault. That's just the way the character was written, how the movie worked. And it's the same with Whiplash. The writing around that character didn't work.
Yeah,
I think that I think the actors they got for those two characters were perfect. I think the writing is what really dragged it down to a point where no matter how well the actors did, and they did do a phenomenal job, there was no saving. You can't save bad writing with stellar acting. You can just improve it.
Yeah.
And they improved it to the best of any possible person's abilities.
If you shine a turd, it's still a turd.
And they shined a turd to the point where they're like, that's brown gold. No, it's poop.
Yeah. But I also gave it a 7 out of 10. Like you said, those two. Another big problem I have with them, or at least with Hammer, Whiplash, it's hard to do that because the more I thought about it was Howard that messed with his dad, not Tony, so it's hard to show that off when we're not even introduced to Howard at that point.
Yeah, we barely know who Howard is.
But Hammer, one simple thing they could have done to show off that why Hammer has such resentment to Tony is when, in the first movie, when he's showing off the Jericho missile, have Hammer be there trying to show off a different weapon, but no one cares.
Yeah.
And Hammer just, is looking at him resentful, and he gets in the Humvee with Rhodey instead of Rhodey being with Tony.
In the Fun V?
Yeah, and so then it shows that Hammer saw this happen to Tony, knows that he can take over now as the military contractor, so that's how he's starting to make a lot more money, and he's just like, oh, well, Tony came back, and now there's this Iron Man thing. I know who Iron Man is. Him being, just showing Hammer in the first movie at all as just a small portion of it, just to be like, look, this is another person Tony had to compete with at the time.
Anything little, but
they don't, and that hurts that character, and because that hurts that character, because the villains just aren't good enough.
And part of that is because Iron Man was the first movie in the saga, and they didn't know if it was going to make it.
Yeah, they didn't expect Iron Man to take off as well as it did.
And it blew expectations out, and this is where we are today.
They thought it would do well. They did not think they would be able to make the entire cinematic universe around it.
Yep.
And they did.
And that does it for our review. Yeah. I think we've said everything that can be possibly said from our opinions and our perspective about these stories and these movies. It doesn't substitute for watching it. So make sure you do. And let us know what you thought in the comment section down there.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched the rest of it, we're going to start putting a card here.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
See you, chump.
My back.
For the last one.
For the playlist, or for the last one here now.
Thank you, Jesus.
And we just like to give Christian more work to do.
Yeah.
So make sure to check those out and let us know what your thoughts are after watching it, because we'd love to have the discussion with you. And if yours is different than ours, that's perfectly fine. Following along with us and rating them yourself and going through the same lists that we are, we can have some really fun discussions later on in this series. But until then, you folks have a wonderful day. Thank you for checking in, but now we are checking out.